Are you feeling the strain of rising prices everywhere you turn? Does it seem like the cost of that laptop you've been eyeing keeps going up every time you check? Well, let me tell you, you're not imagining a thing, and that's what's really happening. Could be costing you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Imagine discovering that the price you're seeing online isn't the same price that your neighbor sees for the exact same product. This isn't science fiction, it's happening right now, and it could be draining your bank account without you even realizing it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this practice, revealing how it's affecting your everyday purchases and arm you with strategies to protect yourself and your hard-earned money. Plus, we're going to explore how this modern business tech aligns or doesn't align with our Christian values. You don't want to miss this eye-opening episode that could change the way you shop forever. Stay tuned as we uncover the hidden world of surveillance pricing and how it's impacting your wallet in ways you never imagined. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to have a game-changing discussion. You might be thinking, Ralph has lost his mind. What is he talking about? What is this surveillance pricing? And I'm going to get to that. But today, the goal is to help you keep more money in your pocket. And let me tell you, this is a creepy thing to discuss. This aggregation of data is just scary. It's scary how much information is out there. And we're going to talk about how that information is being used today. Now, before we get to today's show, I want to talk about yesterday's show. And yesterday we talked about what happens if I outlive my life insurance. It's a scary thing for people who have term life insurance, and I outlined some essential strategies to help you find that financial security if you find yourself in that place, just like I am, where you're looking at what do I do if I'm getting ready to outlive my life insurance. So I'm going to encourage you to check it out. Well, I got a truly thought-provoking question from a listener named Greg. That's what Greg had to say. He said, "Hey, Ralph, I've been experiencing something unsettling lately. I was shopping online for a new laptop for my small business, and I noticed the price kept changing every time I visited the site. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I asked my wife to check on her computer, and she saw a completely different price. I feel like I'm being manipulated, and it's really shaking my trust in online shopping. Is this what they call surveillance pricing? As a Christian business owner, I'm struggling with the ethics of this practice. How can I protect my business and personal finances from this kind of pricing strategy? And how do I reconcile this in my faith and desire to be a good steward of the resources God has blessed me with?" And listen, Greg, that is a great question. And it's a question that comes at a time, it's a critical issue in our digital economy. It just is. There are tools and there are companies and people who are daily working to grab and aggregate this data. I said aggregate earlier. I probably mispronounced it a bit. But they're trying to aggregate this data now so that they can use it for our shopping. And that's just the truth. Well, we're going to get to today how to look at that, how to be on guard for that, and what we can do about it. But I always like to start by looking at scripture for guidance. And I've found a great verse from the book of Proverbs. It comes to us from chapter 11, verse 1. And it says this: "The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him." And that verse is right on point. It reminds us about the fairness and honesty. And here's the thing, folks. This surveillance pricing, it's the scary outcome of improved technology. We all like that technology. Hey, I'm a technology nerd. I like technology, but the thing you've got to understand about technology, with all of that technology, all that data aggregation comes these type of things. So you might be asking, Ralph, what are you talking about? What is surveillance pricing? It's really not that complicated to discuss, so let's jump right to it. And what I'm really talking about is what they refer to as dynamic personalized pricing. And the way it works is this. Companies go out and they buy data. That data looks at your online behavior. It might be things like your purchase history. It might look at your personal information, your age, where you live, what kind of car you drive, what website you visit. Think about this. Every time I go on my Facebook feed, I see items that I might have been looking at on Google, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But that's what I'm talking about, is this data aggregation. What websites does Ralph visit? What stores does Ralph go to? Where does Ralph live? How old is Ralph? What kind of career does Ralph have? And what it's done is it's combined this financial expertise with this modern technology. And the thing we've got to ask ourselves is there are significant ethical concerns here. And listen, this isn't new. Think about this. It's the same thing they had back in the old car salesman days. You pull up on the car lot, you get out of your car, the car salesman looking at you and like, the car salesman sizing you up. They're trying to decide how much of a car can I sell Ralph on? What can I get him to buy? And it's funny because the things I say to my wife, and we buy quite a few cars. I like to, probably not a good financial thing, but I like to have new cars. And I'll tell my wife, a lot of times when I go car shopping, I'll dress like a bum. Now, maybe that's not a nice word to use, but I do. I don't want to come onto the lot looking like I've got a ton of cash or something like that, because it still goes on to this day. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just turning it to a more precise and more technology thing. And to be honest with you, it's used at a higher scale. I'll give you a personal example. A few months ago, we were planning a vacation. I got in front of my computer because that's the way we do it now. I don't call a travel agent. Maybe I should. Maybe I get better pricing. But I'm researching this on the computer. And I noticed, because I hadn't made a decision the same day, and I'm noticing day after day, it seems like the prices are increasing. And I thought, well, that's strange. Why would the prices be increasing? And I said to my wife, I said, hey, do me a favor. Can you look at the pricing for this particular place where we wanted to go and look at airline tickets and hotels and all that kind of stuff? And she said, sure, I'll take a look at it. And I said, well, here's the prices I'm getting. She goes, Ralph, what are you talking about? She says, if what you're seeing is what I'm seeing, then it's going to be the same. Well, guess what? She looked at it and her prices were much lower. And let me tell you, that made me mad. My wife was like, Ralph, how is that possible? And see, I love technology, but it made me mad because somehow they were seeing me as a bigger fish. I don't know what they call that in the casinos, the whale that comes in, I don't know what that looks like, but it made me mad because how come my wife's prices for the exact same hotels, the exact same airlines, the exact same vacation spot were so much lower? Well, let's jump right into why businesses use this, because there are definitely some business advantages. And the biggest one is they can maximize profits by charging what they think customers will pay. They're sizing you up, just like that car salesman. They're seeing Ralph coming on the lot, and Ralph's got deep pockets. We can really sock it to him on this car because he wants that Corvette. He wants that flashy red sports car. Another thing that businesses take advantage of is, and this is what they argue, I don't know if this so much is true, but they say that they can offer lower prices to sensitive customers, and then they charge more to others. So if they see somebody coming along that maybe this person goes on to Facebook groups of coupons, or they go to websites for coupon codes, well, then these businesses will use that information to say, oh, we've got a real price-sensitive customer here. We better drop our prices. And then if they go and they look at somebody who doesn't do those things, people don't clip coupons, people don't go to those Groupon sites or whatever those discount codes are, maybe they'll sock it to you. Now, of course, with anything, there comes downsides. And the biggest downside, and people argue about this, is it leads to unfair treatment. We think about this for a second. You are getting a different price for the exact same thing. Imagine this. You go online, you're looking at a TV. Let's say you're looking at a 50-inch TV. And a 50-inch TV, they're dirt cheap now. Let's say $300. Well, if my neighbor goes and looks at that 50-inch TV and it's only $280, how's that possible? It's the same TV, but there's a different price. And here's the dirty little secret nobody wants to talk about. All of this data aggregation is based on your browsing history, or it's based on where you live, your zip code. And the problem is, one of the downsides is this erodes trust between business and consumers. It truly does, because as a consumer, think about how mad I was when I saw that those prices were different for the hotel, for the flights, and for the vacation we wanted to plan. And I said, wow, I'm not going to use that vendor again. I'm not going to use that airline. I'm not going to stay at that hotel. And think about the Bible verse we talked about today, that whole thing about dishonest scales. So you got to ask yourself the next logical question. What are customer advocates saying? Let's talk about this, because this is a big deal. It's happening. You can bury your head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening, but it's happening. And customer advocates are saying it exacerbates existing inequalities. Basically, what they're saying is the people who are impacted by this are already being impacted by other things in the economy, and that's not a great thing. One of the other things they argue is low-tech people pay more. And think about that. If the data aggregation shows that you go to these websites and you go to these coupons and you do this and you do this, well, if you don't have a connection to that tech, you're going to pay more because you're not going to be in that realm of that conscientious or that price-sensitive buyer. Another big one, and listen, I think about this one too, and that's the invasion of privacy. But you got to ask yourself, if you're online, if you're doing things with electronics, the big question is, do we even have any privacy anyway? I talked about this a little while ago. I don't know how many times I've gone onto Google to search for something. Maybe I need a product for my office or a replacement for something or a service. I do that Google search, I look at some things, and then maybe I got a couple extra minutes, I pop open Facebook. And all of a sudden in my feed is ad after ad after ad of the very thing I was looking up on Google. People don't believe me. Try it. Go onto Google and search for something very unusual. I had a client one time was searching for a particular auto part for an old car. I don't remember what it was, but it was a very unusual part. And he said, Ralph, he said, I didn't believe you. I went back on Facebook and doggone it, if there wasn't that part in my feed at different, I think it was Rock Auto. Don't hold me to that. But there was a bunch of different ones all popping into his Facebook feed. Well, how did it get there? It got there because of that data aggregation. It got there because that surveillance is being used. Another thing they talk about, consumer advocates say it's about discrimination based on race, gender, economic status. Now look, I think a lot of people could argue that. To me, I don't know that that's a big deal. It's no different in my view than what they call location bias. For example, like if you've got a bad area of town, a lot of times grocery stores won't go there because they don't want to be involved in that. And these little pop-up stores come, these corner stores. I don't know if you've ever been into one of those, but the prices there are not great. Again, is that bias? Maybe. We definitely realize now that this exists, right? So you can't argue that this is not a thing. Like I said earlier, you got your head buried in the sand if you don't believe it. But then you got to ask the question, this is a Christian, so she might be asking, Ralph, how do we navigate this as a Christian? Because if you understand Christianity, what are we charged to do? We're supposed to be good stewards, and we're supposed to treat others fairly. Right? I mean, that's the bottom line. That's our charge, if you will, as Christians. So how can we navigate this? The first thing you got to do is you got to be aware that practice exists. I say this on the show all the time. Knowledge is power. And if you know this exists, then maybe you need to change your online behavior. And I'm going to talk about that next, how there's some online tools that we can do. But maybe that's the biggest thing, is to change your online behavior. Well, you might ask, Ralph, how do you do that? Well, you can use tools like incognito browsing. Let me say that 3 times to get that out. Or maybe VPNs, because the whole point is you want to mask your digital footprint. Now, that is a double-edged sword, because one of the things I said is these data brokers, these data aggregators might give you better prices if you're this person that goes to the discount code sites or the coupon sites or any of those things. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But maybe if you use those incognito browsers, use that VPN, maybe you'll access lower prices. Now you might be asking, Ralph, what in the world is a VPN? Well, I'm going to put a link in the show notes today because I've done a show about VPNs and I did another show about online security. I'm going to encourage you to check it out. And like I said, links to those shows will be in the show notes. Another thing you've got to do, and that is compare prices across devices. Use your computer, use your tablet, use your phone. And then the other thing, it's a really cool thing to do, is ask your friends and family. Maybe if you're looking for that TV or you're looking for that new watch or you're looking for whatever electronic you're looking for, say to your friend Joe, hey, Joe, listen, I'm in the market for this. Can you go online and see what kind of prices you can get? You might be surprised. And the final thing you can do, if you know it exists, how can you navigate it? You got to remember your Christian faith. Because you can drive yourself crazy and get trapped in this thought. But remember, as Christians, our worth isn't determined by what we own or how much we pay for it. And it's so easy to get trapped in that thought. I was trapped in there when I was looking for that vacation. But you can't let that idea consume you. Remember what the book of Matthew, chapter 6, 19 and 20 says. Jesus said this. He says, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy. That's strong. And where thieves break in and steal, but store up yourself treasures in heaven. So you can't let this idea consume you. I know it makes you mad. You might be thinking, Ralph, I don't like this infringement on my privacy. I don't like the fact that it's unfair. I don't like the fact that it's biased. And listen, I was angry about it. It consumed me. Well, let me tell you about some of my clients' experiences, because until I really got into this, now I had another client say, he's just like Greg, a business owner, and he was ordering office supplies. And what he said to me is, look, every time I order supplies, these supplies, it seems like the price is going up, Ralph. And all of a sudden he said, I'm going to try some. I'm going to delete my browser history, cleared his cookies, cleared his cache, whatever you call it. Shopped around and listen to this. He said, Ralph, I saved 20% on the regular orders that I usually spend on these things just by clearing out the browser history. Now, I don't know. I've not tried that. You can try that yourself, but it's something to try. I had another client who was a retiree on a fixed income, and he was looking for travel, just like my wife and I. And he was going to these travel websites. And the thing he said to me, he says, I was talking to my grandkids about it because we were thinking about doing like a multi-generational trip. And he said, I was looking at these prices. My grandkids were telling me the prices they were seeing were so much lower. He says, how's that possible, Ralph? Here we go. Here's the surveillance pricing. So what I did in his particular case, we talked about how to use these comparison sites. They're called booking through aggregators. And I put a link to a great article about this, and you can look at the different ones that are out there. One of the things they talked about in this article was avoid direct booking with airlines and hotels. Just don't go there. Don't go to the airline directly. Don't go to the hotel directly. This might be something you want to try. Look at those data aggregators. Like I said, I got an article about that in the show notes. But look, here, you got to be careful about those too. Because if you use these data aggregators, it's not the hotel directly. It's not the airline directly. You got to watch because there could be cancellation issues. There could be changing things. You got to read the fine print. If you listen to me, I'll always talk about reading that fine print. But remember this, the best advice I can give you. It's important to be vigilant and be proactive. In the book of Matthew 10:16, it says, be shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. So what am I saying? My big takeaway here is you got to be aware of this. You got to understand it exists. And maybe you look at some ways to get around it by clearing your browser, maybe using a VPN. But you've got to maintain our integrity and faith. Let's do a bit of a recap. The reality in our digital age is that this surveillance pricing, it's happening. Is it a benefit to business? Yes, clearly they're using it. There are people making millions of dollars aggregating this data. I got clients that this is what they do. They're data miners. They go out and they find this data. And you'd be shocked to hear about it. I mean, the data is so interesting. They actually have data in grocery stores that measure where you walk and what shelves you look up and which shelves you grab on, which ones you go down to. Is it cost consumers? Yeah, I mean, we're saying that. Some people are paying more. But the big takeaway is be aware of it, protect yourselves. And as a Christian, I think you've got to do something bigger than that. You've got to have this mentality that you're going to treat others fairly. That's just the bottom line. You might be saying, Ralph, this modern finance stuff is driving me crazy. I'm feeling overwhelmed. How do I stay true to my faith when I'm juggling these daily responsibilities? Now you're telling me I got to watch what I'm doing online, that people might be watching me and looking at what I'm doing. And yeah, it's frustrating. It's disheartening. I get it. But here's the deal. I'm here to help you. We can set up a personalized consultation. Let's examine your specific situation. Let me help you build a personalized plan, a financial roadmap that aligns your goals with your faith. Like I started at the beginning, I said prices are going up. People are sensitive to that. Stuff that cost X now is now 30% more. A lot of us are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. We're trying to grow our finances. We're trying to grow our businesses. Or maybe you're one of those people who are just concerned you're on the right track. You're just not sure. Well, let me be your guide. Let me partner with you. Let me make it easier for you. It all starts with you going to AskRalph.com. You'll see a banner ad. You click book a call. And we'll work together. We'll create a roadmap to achieve your dreams, all balanced with your faith. And that's the key to this. My whole purpose of doing this show is to balance your faith and your finances. So don't let financial stress hold you back any longer. Act today. Schedule that call right now. Now, on tomorrow's show, I'm going to ask a doozy because I get this question a lot. And I'm going to share some practical faith-based strategies. And the question is this: how can I buy a house with no income? You might be thinking, now that Ralph has definitely lost his mind, Ralph, how in the world am I going to buy a house if I don't have any income? Well, make sure you tune in tomorrow because I'm going to tell you about how you can achieve your home buying dream even if you don't have any income. Now, remember this. My passion is to help you achieve financial success. This is why I do this daily show. This is why I plan these show episodes out. I take questions. I want to see you live out your dreams. I want to see you grow in your faith. This is my mission field. This is what makes me want to get up in the morning. And I know if we work together, even in this surveillance pricing and this data aggregation and these crazy technology things all around us that feel overwhelming and fearful, if we work together, I am confident we can master your finances and keep that Christian perspective. So as I close today, I want to remind you to stay financially savvy, and no matter what, God bless you.
Thank you for joining us on the Ask Ralph podcast. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. And remember, financial issues don't have to be complicated. Just ask Ralph. The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media, Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.